I never thought I'd be the guy who finds himself in this situation, but here I am, sharing my story with the hope it might resonate with someone else. My name is Jake, and I've been married to Emily for 5 years. We were the quintessential couple, happy in love and planning a future. But you know how it goes. Life gets busy, routines form, and sometimes you start to overlook the little things. Emily was always the life of the party, the kind of person who could light up a room with her smile. But lately, she had been different. After a long day at work, I'd come home to find her wrapped up in her phone, a smile playing on her lips as she texted someone. I'd brush it off initially, telling myself it was just work or a friend she was chatting with. But when she started spending more time at the gym and less time with me, something in my gut started to twist uncomfortably. It all came crashing down one fateful Saturday when I decided to surprise her. I came home with her favorite takeout and a bottle of wine, ready to rekindle some of that lost spark. As I walked into our bedroom, my heart sank. There on the bed was a brand new set of lingerie, black lace that looked expensive and far too revealing for my taste. I hadn't seen it before, and I knew Emily hadn't bought anything like that for me recently. My stomach dropped as I picked it up, feeling the soft fabric between my fingers. I could smell her perfume on it. Maybe it was for me. But a nagging doubt crept in. When I confronted her about it later, she brushed it off, saying it was a gift from a friend, something to spice things up. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but there was something about the way she said it that made my gut twist even further. The following week was a whirlwind. I became hyper-aware of her actions. She would come home late from the gym, and when I'd ask about her day, her answers were vague, as if she were hiding something. I started snooping. I went through her phone when I had the chance. Nothing overtly suspicious, just a string of texts with a guy named Jason. Sure, they were flirty, but I told myself I was reading too much into it. Friends joke like that, right? But then came the night that shattered everything. I had gone to bed early, exhausted from a long week. I was restless, tossing and turning when I heard the front door creak open. I glanced at the clock. It was nearly 2 in the morning. My heart raced as I waited, half hoping it would just be the neighbors making noise. But when she slipped into bed, I could smell the cologne on her. My stomach churned. It wasn't mine. When I confronted her, Emily's eyes widened in surprise. Instead of guilt, there was defiance. "You're imagining things, Jake," she snapped, and her defensive tone sent chills down my spine. "I was at the gym, like I said. I met some friends for a late-night smoothie." The way she said it made me question everything. Was I really that oblivious? I may not have had proof of an affair at that moment, but my instincts screamed louder than ever. The emotions coursed through me: anger, sadness, confusion. I felt like a fool, like I had been blind to the signs. How could I not have seen it before? I spent the night wrestling with my thoughts, and by morning I knew I had to take action. It was time to gather evidence. I needed to know the truth before making any decisions. I decided to start with what I could find: her texts, her emails, anything that could shed light on this dark shadow creeping into our lives. I had to dig deeper, and I was prepared to confront whatever I might find head-on. In that moment, I began plotting my next steps. This wasn't just going to be about finding out the truth. It was about figuring out how to reclaim my life if everything I feared was true. I didn't want to just be a victim. I wanted to understand the betrayal and determine how I would respond. While a part of me dreaded the impending confrontation, another part was fueled by a burning sense of revenge. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices. I was done sitting in the dark. I had a lot to think about, and the journey was just beginning. I could feel the storm brewing inside me, and the path ahead was obscured. All I could do was focus on the truth. The days dragged on, each one heavier than the last. I felt like I was living in a fog, my thoughts constantly circling back to Emily and the new reality I was beginning to piece together. I had become a detective in my own life, fueled by suspicion and a need for clarity. Every moment I spent waiting for her to slip up, to show her hand, was excruciatingly torturous. I decided to take the plunge. One evening I told Emily I would be working late. It was a ruse, of course. I needed an excuse to stay out of the house while I conducted my investigation. Armed with my laptop, I parked in a spot across the street from our home, my heart pounding as I watched for any sign of her coming or going. I waited for hours, my pulse quickening every time I saw headlights approaching. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, I almost considered giving up, but then I saw her. Emily stepped out of the car, looking stunning in a form-fitting dress that I didn't recognize. She looked different, happier, lighter, like she was ready to take on the world. I couldn't believe it as I watched her walk toward a trendy bar with a familiar facade. My heart raced when I recognized Jason, the guy from her text, leaning against the entrance like he owned the place. I felt sick as they exchanged words and laughter, their chemistry palpable even from a distance. Emily's laughter rang out, bright and carefree, and it cut through me like a knife. I watched them enter the bar, my mind racing with the implications of what I was seeing. I was in disbelief. I never thought she would cheat. The thought of her with another man, especially someone I had never met, twisted my stomach in knots. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak as I realized this wasn't just some innocent friendship. She was clearly crossing a line. After what felt like an eternity, I finally mustered the courage to follow them inside. I slipped in through the side door, my heart pounding in my chest. I positioned myself at a discreet distance, scanning the room until I spotted them. They were nestled in a corner booth, and my heart sank as I watched them share drinks and flirt shamelessly. I felt the heat rising in my face, the anger bubbling up inside me. Was this the guy she had bought that lingerie for? The thought made my blood boil. I could see the way she leaned in closer, the glint in her eye as she touched his arm, her laughter cascading like a sweet poison. I wanted to scream, to shatter that facade of happiness they had built, but I knew I needed to remain calm. I took out my phone, trying to capture evidence of their betrayal. I snapped a few blurry photos, my hands shaking as I documented this moment that felt surreal and crushing all at once. Part of me wanted to confront her right there and then, to drag her out of that bar and make her face the truth of what she was doing. But the other part of me, the part that wanted to be strategic, held me back. I wanted to gather more evidence, to confront her with an undeniable truth rather than just my word against hers. After a while, it became clear that they were getting ready to leave. I followed them back to the parking lot, my heart pounding in my ears. As I watched them share a lingering hug, my stomach dropped. Emily kissed Jason on the cheek, and in that moment every shred of doubt I had vanished. This was no innocent rendezvous, this was an affair. I followed them back toward their cars, and my heart raced as I considered my next move. Should I confront her now? Should I wait for her to come home later? I could already feel the anger boiling inside me, paving the way for the revenge I had been plotting in my mind. I wanted her to regret this, to understand the pain she was causing me. As Emily climbed into her car, the reality of the situation began to wash over me. I was faced with a choice. Do I confront her about this when she comes home, or do I let her sweat for a while? The latter appealed to my darker instincts. I wanted to see how long she would keep up the charade, how far she would go before the truth inevitably came crashing down on her. With that decision made, I decided to leave the bar and head home. I wanted to be there, waiting for her to catch her off guard. I needed to see the look on her face when she realized I knew everything. I felt a sense of power surge through me. I was done feeling like a fool. As I drove back to the house, I thought about how I would confront her. Would I be calm and collected, or would I let the anger spill over? I could already imagine the words I would say, the confrontation that was drawing closer. The anticipation was intense, and I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction at the thought of laying everything bare. I parked the car and walked inside, each step feeling heavier than the last. I could already feel the tension in the air, a dark storm cloud looming over what should have been a safe space. I waited for her to come home, my heart racing as I prepared for the fight of my life. The truth was finally about to come out, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours. I sat on the couch, replaying everything in my mind, the photos I'd taken, Emily's laughter, the way she touched Jason. I felt a storm brewing inside me, a mix of anger, betrayal, and a desperate need for clarity. Each creak of the floorboard sent my heart racing, and I found myself on edge, waiting for the moment when she would walk through that door. Finally, The sound of keys jingling broke the silence. I shot up from the couch, adrenaline coursing through my veins as the front door swung open. There she was, Emily, looking radiant and blissfully unaware of the turmoil that was about to unfold. She stepped inside, her cheeks flushed as if she had just come in from a brisk walk rather than a night of deceit. "Hey babe, you're still up," she chirped, her voice bright and cheerful. It felt like a slap in the face, and I knew I had to steel myself for what was coming next. "Yeah, I couldn't sleep," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I could see her expression shift from surprise to confusion. "Talk? About what?" she asked, a slight edge creeping into her tone. I could feel the tension building, like a tightly coiled spring ready to snap. "About you and Jason," I said, my voice low but firm. "I saw you two tonight." Her eyes widened in disbelief, and for a fraction of a second I felt a flicker of hope that she might come clean, but just as quickly that hope was extinguished. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice rising defensively. "You're being ridiculous, Jake. Ridiculous. I watched you. I saw the way you were with him, Emily." "Those hugs weren't just friendly," I shot back, feeling the heat of anger rising in my chest. "Don't lie to me." Her expression transformed into one I had never seen before, a blend of shock and defiance. "You're taking this way too far. I can't believe you would spy on me. You've lost your mind." She snapped, crossing her arms as if to shield herself from the truth. "Spying?" I scoffed, incredulous. "I went out to work late, and it just so happened that I found you at a bar with another man." "How is that my fault?" She opened her mouth to respond, but the words didn't come. Instead, she shifted her gaze to the floor, and I could see her processing everything. I watched as her facade crumbled layer by layer. "You don't understand," she started, but I cut her off. "Then enlighten me, Emily, because right now it seems like you've been lying to me for weeks. What the hell is going on?" She hesitated, her lips trembling slightly. "It's not what you think, Jake," she finally said, her voice softer now, but her eyes were darting around the room as if she were searching for an escape. "Jason and I were just friends. I swear I didn't mean for it to get out of hand." "Friends, really? Is that why you've been coming home late? Is that why you bought that lingerie?" I pushed, my voice rising. "You expect me to believe that?" "Okay, fine, maybe I got carried away, but it didn't mean anything. We were just having fun," she said, her tone shifting from defensive to pleading. "You know how things have been for us, Jake. You've been so focused on work, and I felt neglected. I thought I could just have a little fun to escape. But it didn't mean anything." Her excuses hit me like a physical blow. I felt the betrayal like a weight on my chest, suffocating me. "So your solution to feeling neglected was to sleep with another man. How does that make any sense?" I asked, my voice low and shaking with hurt. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at me, and for a moment I thought maybe she would finally take responsibility for her actions. But instead she broke down into a sob, playing the victim. "I never meant to hurt you, Jake. I just wanted to feel wanted again. I didn't think it would lead to this. You have to believe me." "Believe you? How can I believe anything you say?" I shot back, my mind racing. I could feel the room closing in around me, the betrayal weighing heavy in the air. I was still reeling from the shock, and the sadness began to creep in as I looked at the woman I loved, now reduced to a stranger before my eyes. "I can't do this," I finally muttered, shaking my head. "I don't even know who you are anymore." The truth of my words hit hard, and I could see it resonate with her. I waited for a rebuttal, an explanation, anything that could help me make sense of the chaos. But all I saw was the woman I once loved, broken and panicking, desperately scrambling for words that would never come. "I'll do anything, Jake," she pleaded. "I can fix this. Just give me a chance." I took a deep breath, the weight of her words pressing down on me like a heavy shroud. "You think giving me empty promises will fix this?" I replied, my tone icy. "It's not just about the affair, Emily. It's about trust, about respect. How can I trust you again after this?" Her eyes were wide with desperation as she reached for me, but I stepped back, creating distance between us. I felt the walls of our life together crumble around me, and I knew this wasn't something that could easily be repaired. "I need time," I said finally, my voice trembling. "I can't keep going like this, pretending everything is fine when it's not. You've shattered everything we built together." Emily's face fell, and I could see the reality of the situation settling in. The tears flowed freely now, and for the first time I felt a sense of resolve wash over me. This wasn't just about her betrayal, it was about me reclaiming my life, my peace of mind. As she stood there, sobbing softly, I turned away, feeling the weight of this moment settle deep within me. I needed to decide what to do next, whether to continue this marriage or walk away. But one thing was clear. I was done being the fool, and it was time to take control of my life again. The night felt heavy with unresolved emotions, but I could sense a shift within myself. I was no longer just a victim. I was ready to confront the reality of my situation head-on, no matter how painful it would be. I was done with the lies and the facade. It was time to confront not only Emily, but also the future that lay ahead of me. The days following that explosive confrontation were a blur. I went through the motions of daily life, work, eating, sleeping, but my heart was heavy with the weight of uncertainty. Emily's tears haunted me, and I could still hear her pleas echoing in my mind, begging for another chance. Yet every time I thought of the betrayal, anger surged through me, pushing away any flicker of sympathy I might have felt. I spent hours in my office, trying to bury myself in work, but my mind kept drifting back to the scene we had shared. I replayed her words over and over, searching for the truth in the chaos. Was it really just a fling? Did she truly regret her actions? Or was this simply a game to her, a way to keep me on the back burner while she indulged in her fantasies? After a few sleepless nights, I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't live in this limbo forever. I reached out to a close friend, Mark, who had always been my sounding board through thick and thin. We met at a local bar, and over a couple of drinks I poured out my heart, revealing everything that had transpired. "Dude, this is tough," Mark said, shaking his head as he listened. "I mean, cheating is one thing, but the excuses she made. It sounds like she's just trying to twist this around to make you feel guilty." "I know, but it's hard to just throw everything away," I replied, nursing my beer as I stared at the foam. "We've built a life together, but how can I trust her again? I feel like I don't even know who she is anymore." "Trust is everything, man. If she's broken that, it's going to take a hell of a lot to rebuild it. You deserve to be with someone who respects you, not someone who hides things from you," Mark said, his tone serious. "You need to think about what you want moving forward." Those words lingered in my mind long after our conversation ended. I realized I had spent so much time focused on Emily's feelings that I had neglected my own. I needed to put myself first for once. As the weekend approached, I decided it was time to confront Emily again, to lay everything out on the table and demand the truth without the emotional games. While I was still consumed with anger, I felt a strange sense of empowerment building within me. I would no longer be the victim in this narrative. I would take charge of my own life. When I returned home that Friday evening, I found Emily sitting on the couch, clearly anxious. Her expression was a mixture of hope and fear, and I could tell she was waiting for me to break the silence. "Hey, Jake," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I want to talk about it." "Good," I replied, my tone flat, "because I do too." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check as I prepared for what was about to unfold. "I want you to tell me everything. No excuses, no lies, just the truth." "I swear I didn't mean for it to get this far," she began, her voice shaky. "It was just supposed to be harmless fun. I didn't think I would actually develop feelings for him. I didn't." "Feelings?" I interjected, my heart racing. "You didn't think you would develop feelings? You were out with him more than you were with me." Emily looked down, the guilt washing over her face. "I know, and I messed up. I just felt so alone. Jake, you were always busy, and I thought I was just looking for attention. But Jason, he made me feel desired again." "Desired, is that what it was?" I asked, my voice rising. "You had me, you had everything. Were you really so unhappy that you needed to go find someone else?" "Please, don't make this about you. You don't understand how lonely it was," she retorted, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "I tried to talk to you. I tried to make you see me. By sleeping with another man." Shot back, "It's not just about the physical act, it's the betrayal that cuts deep." She bowed her head, and for a moment I thought she might finally take responsibility for her actions. "You're right," she said softly. "I was selfish. I thought I could find validation elsewhere. I didn't want to hurt you, but I did. I felt the air grow heavy between us and I had to fight the urge to scream. What do you want, Emily? Do you want me to forgive you? Do you want to go back to how things were? I want to fix this, she said, her voice breaking. I love you, Jake. I made a terrible mistake and I want to make it right. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. What does that even mean? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. How do I know you won't just do this again? You've betrayed my trust in the worst way possible. I know, she said, tears streaming down her face. I'll go to counseling. I'll work on myself. I'll do anything you need me to do to prove that I can be better. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. Could I really believe her? Could I trust that she wouldn't hurt me again? The weight of the decision ahead pressed down on me. I knew I had to find a way to either rebuild our relationship or walk away for good. I need time to think, I finally said, my voice shaking. I can't just pretend everything is okay right now. This doesn't just go away overnight. I understand, she whispered, looking defeated. I'll give you the space you need. Just know that I'm here, and I'll wait for you. As I turned to leave the room, I felt a heavy burden settle over me. This was the moment that would define the rest of my life, and I wasn't sure what the future held. I needed to figure out who I was without her, what I wanted moving forward. The emotional turmoil was insurmountable, but somewhere deep inside, I felt a flicker of hope, hope that I could reclaim my life, whether with or without Emily. It was a long road ahead, and I was ready to face it head on. I wouldn't allow betrayal to define me. I would find my strength again. The days turned into weeks, and each one felt like an eternity. I took time off work, using the opportunity to reflect and gain clarity about my life and my marriage. I started journaling my feelings, documenting the chaos swirling in my head. It helped, but there was still a gaping hole in my heart, a sense of betrayal that lingered like an unwelcome guest. Emily respected my need for space, which was surprising. She would check in occasionally, sending texts that were laden with apologies and expressions of love. I could feel her desperation through the screen, but every message was a reminder of the pain she had caused. I found it difficult to reconcile the woman I loved with the one who had betrayed me so deeply. I spent countless hours in coffee shops, sipping my drinks while I contemplated my future. I frequented the gym, trying to channel my anger into physical exertion. Working out became a coping mechanism, a way to release the pent-up frustration and hurt. I started focusing on myself, rediscovering hobbies I had shelved in the bustle of married life. I also took Mark's advice and sought out a therapist. It was a tough step, a vulnerable one, but I realized that I needed someone to guide me through the emotional turmoil. I wanted to understand how I had ended up in this situation, and more importantly, what I wanted for my future. The sessions were enlightening, helping me to process my feelings and encouraging me to think about the kind of relationship I truly wanted. During one of my sessions, I spoke about the day I discovered Emily's betrayal. I felt like my whole world crumbled in an instant. I told my therapist, I never saw it coming and it shattered my trust. I just don't know if I can ever get that back. Trust is a fragile thing, Jake, she replied. It takes time to build and can be destroyed in an instant. The question now is, what do you want to do with that knowledge? Do you want to work through it, or do you want to find closure and move on? Her words echoed in my mind long after I left her office. I began to realize that, while I could forgive Emily, I might never forget what she'd done. The betrayal had reshaped our entire foundation, and I wasn't sure I could rebuild on that shaky ground. After weeks of introspection, I decided to meet with Emily one final time. I needed to gauge her intentions and determine whether there was even a path forward for us. I texted her, asking her to meet at a park nearby, a neutral ground where we could talk without distractions. When the day arrived, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I arrived early, packing the grass as I waited for her. My heart raced as I replayed the conversations in my mind, rehearsing what I would say. I wanted to be clear about what I felt and what I needed, no matter how hard it was. Emily arrived looking tentative, her eyes scanning the park until they landed on me. She approached slowly, her expression a blend of hope and apprehension. "Hey, Jake. Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "Let's just get right to it," I said, my tone firm but controlled. I've spent a lot of time thinking about us, Emily, and I need to know if you're genuinely committed to repairing this relationship. I am, she said, her eyes wide with sincerity. I've been working on myself and I realize how much I took you for granted. I want to make it right. I've even started counseling myself. I raised an eyebrow, surprised but skeptical. What does that look like for you? What are you willing to do to earn back my trust? I'll do whatever it takes, she insisted, her voice filled with urgency. I know I have to prove myself and I'm ready to put in the work. I want to rebuild this marriage brick by brick. I nodded slowly, taking in her words but still feeling a knot in my stomach. It's going to take time and I can't promise I'll ever fully trust you again, I said. Can you accept that? I can, she replied, her voice unwavering. I just want the chance to show you that I can be better. I realize that I've hurt you deeply, and I have to earn that trust back one step at a time. Her determination was palpable, but I couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt. But what if you falter again? I asked, a sense of vulnerability creeping into my voice. What if the feelings for him resurface? I know that's a risk, she admitted, her eyes earnest. But I'm willing to fight for us. I don't want to lose you, Jake. You mean everything to me. As I looked into her eyes, I could see the sincerity behind her words, but I also saw the fear, the longing for forgiveness. It was a delicate balance, and I knew that rebuilding would not be easy. I needed to set some boundaries to make it clear that this would be a long road ahead. If we're going to do this, Emily, we need to establish some ground rules, I said, my voice steady. I want transparency, no more secrets, no more hiding. If something doesn't feel right, we talk about it immediately. I need to know you're committed to this fully. I promise, Jake. No more lies, she replied, her voice firm. I'll do whatever it takes. I took a deep breath, the heaviness of the moment settling around us. Okay, I said finally, my heart pounding. Let's take this slow. I'm willing to try, but I can't promise how it will turn out. Just give me the chance, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. I'm ready to fight for you. As we sat beneath the blossoming trees, a sense of apprehension washed over me. I was stepping into uncharted territory, forging a new path with someone who had hurt me deeply. But there was also a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild from the ashes of our broken trust. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I was willing to try. I owed it to myself to at least see where this path might lead. As we talked, I realized that this was not just about forgiveness. It was about rediscovering ourselves and our commitment to each other. The road ahead would be long and winding, but I was finally ready to take the first step. The weeks turned into months, and the difficult journey of rebuilding our relationship began. Emily committed herself to counseling, and I continued my sessions as well. We learned to communicate with each other in ways we hadn't before, digging deep into our feelings and fears. It wasn't easy. There were many tears, moments of anger, and days when it felt like the weight of our past might crush us. One evening, we sat on the couch, reviewing our progress together. We had started to open up more about our dreams, our desires, and even our insecurities. You know, I never really understood how much I took you for granted until I almost lost you, Emily admitted, her voice soft. I was so caught up in my need for validation that I forgot what was truly important. I felt a mixture of sadness and hope as I listened. I had spent many nights wondering if I could ever forgive her fully, but as we worked through our issues, I began to see the person I fell in love with again. Emily was trying, and that effort meant something. But every so often, doubt would creep in. I would catch myself replaying the images of her with Jason, her laughter echoing in my mind. I had moments where I struggled to let go of the past, and during those times, I would share my feelings with her. I'm still dealing with the hurt, Em. It's hard not to think of what you did. I understand, she would say, her eyes brimming with empathy. Just know that I'm here and I'll never do anything to hurt you again. You can ask me anything. Gradually, we began to create new memories together. We took weekend trips, went hiking, and tried new restaurants, rebuilding our life brick by brick. Each small joy felt like a victory, and I started to realize that maybe we could emerge from this stronger than we had been before. One Saturday, while going through some old boxes in our attic, I stumbled across our wedding album. I felt a wave of nostalgia wash over me as I flipped through the pages. There were pictures of us radiant with joy, promising forever to one another, oblivious to the storm that would come. I brought the album downstairs and showed it to Emily. "Look at us," I said, a bittersweet smile on my face. We were so young, so naive. She settled next to me on the couch, her eyes scanning the photographs. I remember that day. "You look so handsome," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I meant every word of those vows, Jake, I still do." We sat there, reminiscing about those early days. It reminded me that despite everything, there was a strong foundation in our relationship. That spark hadn't vanished. It had merely been buried under the weight of betrayal and misunderstanding. As the months passed, I felt the heaviness in my heart begin to lift. I realized that forgiveness wasn't a singular act but a process. It didn't mean I would forget what Emily had done, but it meant I was choosing to move forward despite it. I was learning to trust her again, slowly but surely. One evening, as we sat outside on our patio watching the sunset, I turned to her and said, "I think I'm starting to believe that we can get through this." Emily's eyes lit up and she took my hand, squeezing it tightly. "I won't let you down, Jake, I promise. Just remember it's going to take time," I said, my heart swelling with renewed hope. "But I'm willing to put in the work, are you?" "Always," she replied without hesitation. That night I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We still had a long way to go, but I finally felt optimistic about our future. No relationship is perfect, and we would always carry the scars of what had happened. But I also recognized that we could emerge from this stronger, filled with a deeper understanding of one another. As I reflected on our journey, I realized that while betrayal had threatened to tear us apart, it also opened the door to healing and growth. I had learned a lot about myself during this process, the importance of self-worth, communication, and the need for boundaries. In the end, I understood that love isn't always easy, but it's worth fighting for. Emily and I were rewriting our story, one day at a time, and I was finally ready to embrace whatever the future held for us.